All right, everybody, welcome to our regular live stream that we do with my buddies Brian White from Future Oza, Hans Nelson from Hans C. Nelson. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing the big announcement from Tesla, from Elon himself directly last night about this Roadster. He dropped quite a number of nuggets about what to expect about it. We're going to talk about the Roadster. We're going to talk about the Apple car. Now that Apple announced they're not going to make that car anymore. And we're going to talk about, this conversation. So many people still ask the questions, why the Roadster instead of the compact car? Why the Cybertruck ahead of the compact car? Let's talk about Tesla's innovation. We'll talk about their plans and why they make those decisions that they do. We got the right people on board here. Welcome, guys. What do you guys think about this big announcement? Share your quick thoughts, and then I'll get into the actual information that he shared.
My quick thought is you got to walk before you can run. Every vehicle that they've done has been a step towards an end goal. And if we were going to say that the compact should have come before something else, honestly, it should have come first. They should have done this in the very beginning. But again, you have to walk before you can run. And if they'd have made the compact first, it would have been a $100,000 car. So that's my 5,000, 50,000 foot overview, whatever it is. Hans, what are you thinking?
I just think it's about time. I mean, how long have we been waiting for this car? We definitely can put out a Roadster, and it shouldn't be something that necessarily interferes with the other plans that Tesla has going on at this point in the company's history.
Well, one of the discussions I want to have with you guys is, this idea of why the Roadster in the first place. It is a halo product. It's a hero product. It's only for a small number of people, but it's going to have huge impact to the brand, right? Let's share what exactly Elon shared last night. He dropped this very late. He said, tonight we radically increased the design goals for the new Tesla Roadster. There will never be another car like this, if you can call it a car. And just to remind people what this looks like. This is from Tesla Economics. Nice video. And then this is the unveil of the original Roadster.
Probably want to kill that sound before we get demonetized.
That's all right. Then we've got, this is what he then said. He said that he followed up his post there with Tesla SpaceX collaboration. So clearly this isn't just going to be a car. There's going to be some incredible features to it. He said this: production design complete and unveil end of year. Unveil will be this year, aiming to ship next year. I think it has a shot of being the most mind-blowing product demo of all time. John from Tesla Owner Silicon Valley asked, can it fly a little? Yep, it can. And then targeting a 0 to 60 mile time per hour time of less than 1 second with the fastest spec. Tell us this machine is coming soon. 0 to 60 is less than a second. And this is the least interesting part. So here's all the nuggets. Thank you, Tesla Economics, for putting this all together. Radically increase the design goals of this product. There'll never be another car like it, if you could even call it a car. He said this also in another post. Never be another car like it, even if you call it a car. Less than 1 second, 0 to 60. It may fly a little, he said also. Tesla and SpaceX will collaborate. Production design is complete. Unveiled end of this year. Aiming to ship next year. Will be a rocket on wheels. It has a shot of being the most mind-blowing demo of all time. So do you guys think that he's just, hyping it up again, or what are you expecting?
I would say it's not hype. I would say, like all things that do or don't come true, these are all things he genuinely believes, and he's seen enough of the early engineering to have an idea of what it could be. If you go back 7 years to when we first saw it, 6.5 years to when we first saw it, that was what you could build with the technology that was available then. The technology has improved. We've learned a lot of lessons since then, and everything has come a little way. There's plenty of reason this can happen with a number of things that we've already seen hinted at, like cold air thrusters, and that it's going to work. But I'm not terribly worried about it. It was an exciting demo then. That was the biggest one more thing moment, and yeah, it's I think going to happen, like Elon said, just after the end of next year.
Yeah, and I think people should zero in on the word goals. Like, Elon didn't say it 100% will do XYZ. He said these are the design goals. And a lot of people try to hold him to aspirational things and say, "Oh, you didn't do what you said you were going to do." It's like, well, this is what we're trying to do, and we're telling you ahead of time this is what we're trying to do. That doesn't mean that we're 100% going to hit everything. But I do have high expectations for the performance of the Roadster. It's got to be something that is absolutely mind blowing, and we may, get a little bit excited sometimes in the community and let our imaginations run wild with just how cool could it possibly be, and then feel like we're disappointed when it actually delivers on something that is incredible. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how this goes. Also love just watching all the reactions that different people have to different things as well. It's a never ending source of amusement.
Okay. There's just so many topics to go here, but I'm just reading through the comments from our audience here, and there's some amazing comments. So I want to bring them in now. What do you think about this one? So this is Matt Sanko says, I think it's dessert. That's the reason he typed a bunch of short posts, is to read between the lines. I don't know about that one, but the compact car robotaxi will come out in 2025. This idea that, the product design is done on the next gen. Apparently not done in the Roadster yet. Still a lot of next gen engineering to do, but not in the design and all things. So more like tweening. So, this idea that it looks like that if you read between the lines, why are they already talking about the Roadster? Must be that there's significant progress on Gen 2 already. What's your thinking on that?
I would agree absolutely. The Gen 3 has to be design locked, I believe, because we know that the factory is built around the assembly line is built around the car, and the assembly line is built around the factory. So in that order, the fact that we've got permits submitted in Mexico means the design has to be locked for the compact. Otherwise it wouldn't be done. Elon was asked once, how is the Roadster team coming? I think it was the Roadster team. And he said, there is no such thing. Mm-hmm. We go product to product to product. And that's why you can do some refresh stuff with a separate team, but they've got a bunch of wizards who go from product to product and get everyone dialed in. The Cybertruck had to be finished, and it was. The compact had to be finished, and it appears it is. Now we've got a little bit of breathing room while the Cybertruck ramps, while the compact gets started in its production. They've got the headspace to focus on something like this, and I bet after the problems, that the obstacles they face with the Cybertruck and the not very exciting work to refresh 3 and Y, and I imagine the grueling work on the compact, this is just a welcome change. It will whoop their butts, I'm sure, because it's got to be a perfect harmony, a perfect, orchestrated kind of thing to make it work. And I think they're up for the challenge for sure. And I bet they're excited about it, because this will be maybe not for investors the most exciting product Tesla's ever made, but for car enthusiasts, this is going to be very exciting.
I forgot all about what you just said there. That's right. Elon did say before, they don't have separate teams. They have one team and they do one car at a time. And so I love that. That gives me more confidence that the compact car design is locked. It probably will come out sooner than we think. If the design for this is going to come out the end of this year, and production is going to be next year, and then we already know that the compact, he already announced that the compact car will be production next year too. The design might come out sooner than the end of this year. So that is very interesting comment. What do you think, Hans?
Yeah, I would say that there's, the next generation vehicle platform is the biggest, most audacious design and manufacturing challenge, because there are so many things that they have to figure out, not only in exactly what is the car going to look like, but how do you get a supply chain that can support, the demand for Tesla's next generation vehicle platform is going to be so insane. And they have to account for how do you begin vehicle production on that thing so that it hits the ground running and you can really start getting to volume as quickly as possible. Like that ramp has to be very fast. And all of those things are incredibly difficult to do. And so, yeah, just the overall size of the challenge that Tesla's tackling in that is enormous, especially then when you compare it to the Roadster. Like the Roadster is just an engineering challenge of how do you design this vehicle. And then even if they need to hand build these like Ferrari does, they absolutely can. They don't have to figure out a complex supply chain on how you can manufacture 5 or 10 million of these a year. They don't have to figure out all of the automation that needs to be in place so that every single station has this incredible cycle time so they can just pump these things through a factory. So because of that, it could be that these things end up being delivered, that they started with the next generation vehicle platform design that took several years to do. And it's still, they're still in process of that. They haven't started delivering those vehicles. And that they can, now that they're done with a lot of that design work and they're working through some of the, the next challenges of getting everything built and set up and tested and validated, that they may be able to squeeze this Roadster design, manufacturing, and shipping to customers inside of a window that is before the next generation vehicle comes out, or it could be after. Like it's really hard to tell, just because this is so much smaller of a challenge for them, even though it will be, like Brian was saying, one of the most incredible vehicles ever produced. It's just not going to be sold in enough volume for all of those other challenges that have to be solved to really slow it down.
Let me catch people up again on what's happening. Elon Musk last night said that a bunch of tweets. He said, tonight we radically increased the design goals for the new Tesla Roadster. There will never be another car like this, if you could even call it a car. This is Tesla SpaceX collaboration. So we're going to talk about that. Production designs complete, unveil end of this year, aiming to ship next year. It has a shot at being the most mind-blowing product demo of all time. Can it fly a little? Obviously, yeah, hint, hint, yes. He said this, 0 to 60 miles per hour, less than 1 second. And that is the least interesting part. Let's talk about that. So, that's why I kept replaying this while you were talking. This is the existing Roadster. And look how fast it is. It's going to be even faster than this now. And it's a Tesla, Tesla SpaceX collab. He was hinting before, right, that there was going to be this, thrusters. Is it going to be, somebody asked the question, is it going to be street legal? So, but the part that's interesting, what he said, 0 to 60 in less than 1 second. And this is the least interesting part. So what could be even more interesting than the fact that it's less 0 to 60 in 1 second with the thrusters?
One thought on that would be, if the thrusters are on the side, you also now have cornering that is mind-boggling. It may have, I know in terms of accessories, Joe was already talking about making barf bags for the passengers who will probably need them, maybe even diapers, because that's going to be necessary. But no, just getting around the corners with thrusters on the side, stopping with thrusters on the front. Could you imagine improving your stopping distance?
Think bigger, Brian. Tesla SpaceX collab. Can it fly a little? So could it actually put the thrusters down and have a vertical lift? I mean, obviously this is crazy. This is crazy dreaming, but SpaceX
that has been that has
just
been
a
the
little
speculation.
Just hover, just a little, not as flying car or anything.
I hope it doesn't. I think that would be a terrifying prospect.
I think there's also, if we're going out into wild speculation land, a non-zero chance that it will be able to do something in water, just because we know Elon loves that James Bond submarine boat concept. And if he's kind of teasing something that people aren't expecting, there could be something kind of in that direction.
Okay, so let's before we move on here, first of all, why do a Roadster, guys? I mean, in my mind, right? Just playing devil's advocate, right? I want you to build a compact car, sell billions of cars. Why are we spending time on a very small niche product? You already did your Roadster, you already did the Model X, and those things should actually be, put that aside and stop working about that. Build the Model 3, build the Model Y, build the compact car, build a robo taxi, build the van, build other things, but why focus on a small niche? Now, this is a hero product. It's a halo product. It's really about the brand, right? Tell me about why you think they're doing this.
So one thought I had on that, yes, it is a big Halo product, but so is the Plaid. So will be the ludicrous Performance Model 3. So is the Cybertruck. These are all exciting vehicles. But one thing I had mentioned to you off camera before was that a lot of companies spend millions and millions of dollars every year on their racing teams, building racing prototypes. And a lot of times the safety, the innovations, the efficiencies that they design that start in race cars end up in production cars. And if you can build this car to do these things, then some of those could filter down to other cars. Now, I'm not saying the Model Y needs cold gas thrusters. I think that might not be the best use of the engineering resources. But when you are looking at, I made a video about the Xiaopeng flying car they had on display at the Detroit Auto Show, CES maybe, at CES. And I was saying
That's a very good point.
And I was saying that they're not going to build this. Of course they're not, but they're developing better competencies and technologies in carbon fiber, in weight reduction, in battery energy density. All of these things will come back around to create additional benefits beyond the car. And the compact is design locked. This isn't Roadster or, this is Roadster and. So they have this may be the downtime they need because I think the compact is still going to be a multi-vehicle platform where they can maybe have a little van or a little hatchback or a little coupe or something else. But until they start actually get those factories up and running, I don't think this particular team, the wizards who make these things happen, has a whole lot on their plate. So now feels like the right time to me.
Amazing comments from the audience. Just amazing comments. I just kept flashing them up and I want to keep talking about each one of them. They're so brilliant. Yeah. Is the margins going to be so high that even though it's a niche product, it could actually be, significant?
It doesn't even need to be. But yeah, and that's very true. I think that, just to encourage or, hit on all the things that people are saying here, people are all over Tesla about you're not doing enough education, you're not doing enough marketing. Well, the Cybertruck and the Roadster especially, like if you think that the attention that the Cybertruck is getting right now is insane, wait until the Roadster. Like this is a marketing budget. And then just like everyone's saying here, it's also an engineering development platform. Like you're pushing the boundaries of what is possible so that you can learn new things and you don't know exactly what it is that you're going to learn when you do that. But when you do it, you do learn valuable stuff. And then you can take whatever you learn that's relevant and applicable to everything else that you do. And you can actually get benefit from that in the rest of your business.
Is it there's no way it's gonna be unboxed. No way.
So on Unboxed, I don't think this is the right product for it, Jeff. Good to see you, by the way. And another person asked single casting, and I don't think single casting is something Tesla's going to do. It negates the benefit of a structural battery pack. And for a car this is going to be a low volume vehicle. The castings just don't make sense until you get to pretty extreme scale, which is one reason no manufacturer has used castings before of this size, is because they wanted to be able to change the shape a little bit for each model year refresh. And certainly within 7 years for a vehicle they probably made less than 1 million of in total. So it takes a lot of scale to justify that. I think this will, like the Plaids, still be stamped steel. Is my guess.
This is one reason why I think Jeff is saying that, guys, you're missing the point. With the flexibility of the Model 2, they're probably using that platform for this Roadster product. Just shows what they'll be able to build off this new platform. Is that possible?
possible seems unlikely to me. Seems like this is going to be too radical. Seems like, I mean, yes, you could build a Ferrari out of a Ford Escort, but it's the wrong set of tools for the job if you want to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see strong arguments both ways. I think that the theory of creating the different sub-assemblies as, you've got your front module, you've got your back module, you've got your pack, and then your sides, and assembling it that way could be part. But yeah, the unboxed process is a solution to a specific problem, and that problem is manufacturing an insane number of vehicles as efficiently as possible. And that is not a problem that is really relevant to the Roadster. Like, they're not trying to make even hundreds of thousands of these things, much less tens of millions. And so I would be surprised if it ends up being something that plays a big part of the Roadster.
Guys, I'm just rereading this. Come on, look at this. Watch this. Okay, Elon said this. I think it has a shot at being the most mind-blowing product demo of all time. Can it fly a little? Googly eyes. Surprise. It's gonna fly. Not like,
right.
I'm like, maybe the thrusters are so powerful that it's gonna jump a little bit. Maybe, it's not really flying, but come on.
If all 4 feet leave the ground, all the wheels are up, then it's flight. I count that. DS Greg wants to know if it'll have hot staging.
What's that? Oh, and rocket
how
ships?
You separate your boosters. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay, so I mean, the excitement is going to be good. It's going to be a Halo product. It's going to be great. So the community. Do you guys think that all the people who put $50,000 are they going to get the new Roadster, or are they going to get like the old Roadster, or how are they going to treat those guys?
Well, if history's taught us anything about the reservations, it means they'll get the last ones they make. That they will come out with some newer, more expensive one. I hope if you paid for a Foundation edition, of Founders Edition, whatever they're choosing to call it, that you actually get the first ones that they make, because they've got to reverse the trend on what the reservations actually mean if they want to continue attracting reservations in large numbers on future vehicles.
Wow. Okay. So Roadster. Can we talk a little bit about Apple Car? Then we're going to come back and ask why Roadster, why Cybertruck ahead of compact car. I think that needs a lot of conversation. There's so many people out there who continue to complain and going, you should have listened to me. Compact car should have come 3 years ago. Why are you wasting your time on the Cybertruck? We'll talk about the technology, the platform, the batteries needed, the whole thing that needs to scale, all that. But right now, Apple announced that they apparently, here we go. They're going to wind down the electric car effort after a decade-long odyssey, billions of dollars spent. The executives told the staff to end work on Project Titan. This was a disclosure internally Tuesday. They surprised that nearly 2,000 employees who were working on the project. Wasn't public, but apparently Jeff Williams and Kevin Lynch were in charge of it, and they were shared by that. So Apple is no longer going to make the car. Pretty obvious to us, right? We knew that they were never going to succeed this. Doesn't make sense for them to create a car. It needed to be autonomous. They were testing it out, but they've never built a car before. So what's your thoughts on what happened with Apple?
So the problem is that was their plan all along, autonomy. And when they started with it, they suffered the same problem every autonomous development team faces, where they get so quickly to 90% and so quickly to 99% that I got this, we got this. And it's that March of Nines that proves impossible to beat so far. And getting something that will work everywhere is proving difficult. Now, if Tesla or Waymo or Cruise had come out with something a year ago that was feature complete, nationwide, universally available, it's possible Apple would have continued moving forward and just licensed it if the price was right, if the whole thing made sense. But what Apple is used to is extremely high margins on very fancy products. Now, I have no doubt that they could make a fancy product. My doubt is that they could sell it profitably at any price, let alone with, with all the tech they plan to put in it. If this thing ended up costing less than 100,000, I'd be very surprised. And the technology just isn't there. That's why Dyson canceled theirs. Their whole design was dependent on a solid state battery that never materialized. And once they got into it, they realized these are really complicated. It requires a variety of competencies that we just don't have. And for Apple, a lot of people said, right, but they make smartphones. They design smartphones, and those are very complicated, which is true. But there are individual elements in the electric car that are as complicated as that smartphone. Any one of the computer systems, the infotainment, any of that is as complicated as designing a phone. And now you've got to design dozens of such systems and make them all work together and make it in a profitable way. I just didn't see a path forward for them.
Yeah, and Apple's plans were really dependent on their ability to solve. I think the opportunity that they were aiming for was actually beating Tesla to an autonomous vehicle. And they just have shown zero ability to execute on that. So just like Dyson needed those solid state batteries, Apple needed an edge in self-driving. And what we've seen from everything that has transpired so far in the race to AVs is that Tesla is in the lead as far as a scalable product that is actually something that is a general solution and not just a specific solution. And so, if they didn't have a hope of winning on that front, that was the thing that could have given them the margin necessary to not necessarily be as competitive in some of the other areas as Tesla was going to be with their lead and their expertise. And they just weren't able to, get it done on that front. So, which doesn't surprise me. Like, Apple is not at this point in their life cycle a company that is able to really develop new, extremely groundbreaking products. Some are going to scream at me right now, but what about the Vision Pro? It's like, well, did they develop that from the ground up? No, they didn't. They have been building off of the work of Meta with their devices, and they're just not leaders in the space. And in order to beat Tesla, Apple would have had to become a leader in the EV space, and that's just not something that they are culturally capable of today.
I asked this question to a number of Tesla influencers yesterday, and asked, what's the likelihood that Apple might partner with Tesla? Jacob asked, I think Apple partner with another car manufacturer who will carry on their work. Which car company stands to gain the most from this? What's the likelihood that they partner with Tesla? Everybody said 0 chance. 0. Oh, come on, Hans. No, it's not 0 chance. It's a high chance.
I don't think it's a high chance. I think it's not. I think it's close 50-50? To 0. No. I mean, there's
20%.
No.
Okay,
no,
0.
I'd say even 5% might be generous. It's not out of the question, but I don't see Tesla. I imagine has confidence that their designs are sufficient, that their technology, their software are all sufficient.
No. I'm saying Apple hires Tesla with the unboxed model. You can put your own brand on it, your own car. Apple, there's no way they're going to give up this requirement to be in people's, daily viewing of entertainment for hours a day. They need to have a car. That's why they spend billions of dollars. This is a big priority for them. They can't just drop it. They need to partner with Tesla, create their own Apple car front look and feel, but it's Tesla that makes it for them.
That I could actually see. Because I thought I've seen people saying, oh, they should buy Lucid or they should buy Rivian. No. And I don't see a benefit there. But but hiring them to manufacture a car like they hire Foxconn to make their phones doesn't seem like a bad idea. There are people who would pay extra for that. It becomes a complicated issue of integrating the engineering. It's frustrating. That's one reason skateboard companies that sell EV, just a base EV haven't really taken off is because integrating those two together in a universal way is tricky. And if you add too many engineers to a project, it can get messy.
Jeff is on fire. Tesla won't give us CarPlay. That means like, yeah, there's, and this guy Roger, right? He's saying, yeah, there's no way that's gonna happen.
So, I mean, I feel a lot of the same feelings that they're feeling, and I would agree that, that's not lost on Elon that Tim Cook, wouldn't take that meeting in 2017. But all that said, you also have to realize that he got booted from PayPal as the CEO and actually has a
And
pretty
he
good
said,
relationship
yeah.
with a lot of the people that did that to him, even
Mhm.
though he felt like he got stabbed in the back. And this would be a great move for the mission, if they could build a car out of Giga Mexico that was an Apple branded vehicle. Like, it's a good setup for the capacity to do something in that realm. My question is, if they were going to do that, though, why do you lay off that entire team? Like, you need to have, unless they already have the car OS like polished and done and is ready to install that over the top of whatever vehicle that they could license from Tesla. It doesn't make sense what I'm seeing from Apple, that they are ready, that they have all the pieces in place to move forward with something like that.
Okay. So I think Yashu is another one. I'm gonna stand on the side that this is a possibility. That Tesla's unbox model is a platform. This platform allows them to create different kinds of vehicles more quickly.
I 100% agree
Vans,
with that.
limousines, but it also allows them to partner with other brands and have their brands on it, Mercedes and BMW, maybe not BMW because they're doing really, really well. But if you're a brand that's going to die, you can just put your brand on top of it and you design the way that you want the car to look. But all the insides, especially the autonomy, you've heard Elon say that, I want you to partner, license autonomy and software. At the same time, if you saw the interview that Sandy Munro did with the executive team at Tesla, they asked the question, he asked the question, could you partner software? And they answered saying, well, the software is so deeply integrated with the hardware, you can't just, partner with just the software. So there's a chance, a big chance, more than zero, more than 5%, that Apple decided that they're going to partner with Tesla. Okay, we can move on. We can move on for that one. Let's get to the topic of, there's so many people out there very upset. Why is Tesla doing Cybertruck? And now they're probably even more upset. Why are you spending your time doing Roadster? You should be spending the time on compact car. There are people out there who are saying that I told Tesla to focus on the compact car 3 years ago, but they didn't listen to me. They instead decided to do the Cybertruck instead of the compact car. How dare they? What a stupid mistake. Now they're feeling the mistake because of their in between the two growth curves. What's your answer to that?
So I think Hans and I are on the same page on this one, which is that it wasn't the right time. I had people saying the same thing. If they'd have focused on the compact, it'd be out a year ago and we'd already be moving 1 million, 2 million units. And I say, we don't have the batteries for 2 million units. No, Elon said repeatedly, we are not battery constrained. Yes, for the current roadmap. If the roadmap was moved forward a full year plus 2 million, the batteries just don't exist. And I think they've been able to accelerate a bit on the compact front now that we've seen a number of legacy automakers step back from their EV ambitions. That's probably one of the reasons the lithium price has fallen as much as it has, is because a lot of buyers are stepping out of the market. So it would have been great, but like we said way at the top of the show, why not just go skip the Cybertruck, skip the Model Y, heck, skip the 3 and the X, and just start there. And we got to build on these competencies one at a time. And with every step since the Model 3 has been one step closer to unboxed. We saw them start with a structural battery and mounting seats to it on the Model Y at the Berlin open house. And with Cybertruck, we're seeing it all come together where they can actually connect all the pieces. And one thing we talked about on a show a while back, Herbert, was that there was a missing piece, which was I showed this unboxed idea to an engineer, and he said, "We've been trying to do this for 30 years, and we couldn't because you still have." Until you had the gigacastings, you had a car that wasn't structural unless you put it all together in one piece. And you've got wiring harnesses that run the full length. Well, we can now replace those with Ethernet cables. It no longer has to run the full length. And you had hydraulic lines for all the brakes. Those run the length of the car. If you're going to try and put those in after the fact, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, wait, if we're doing steer-by-wire and brake-by-wire, there's no more hydraulics. So they could... All the pieces are finally falling into place, and it took all these steps to get us to where we are to actually make it possible.
The best argument I heard was this: that you're creating new technology in order to make the compact car succeed, right? It needs to have all the things you just mentioned in order to be able to do a low cost but very good car at scale. In order to create those new technology, you don't want to, just gamble and create this compact car, which is meant to be sold at scale. It could have problems with the 48 volt system. You want to roll that out first in a small volume, like a Cybertruck, find the problems, perfect the technology. Now you're ready to do mass scaling. We're talking millions and millions and millions of cars. You want to test these out in smaller areas. What do you think about this comment? Thought it was good. It's obvious. Read between the lines, right? Some people have said that earlier. The next gen is done, because if they're going to announce the Roadster, they're talking about Roadster now. Elon just said, right? Design lock this year. We're going to do it in production maybe next year. That must mean, as you said earlier, Brian, that maybe the next gen vehicles are already design locked now. And then if you read between lines, 4680 issues must be solved. Ramp of 4680 incoming. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's very feasible. We don't have proof of that yet. The fact that they are cutting over, though, and producing entirely cyber cells is a good sign. I am really watching closely to see somewhere in here if they have managed to maintain that 20% month over month growth in production volumes. Then we should be getting a milestone of roughly 50 million cells produced in Texas. And so we're kind of watching for that. Haven't seen it yet. So I don't know if that means that A, they haven't told us, or B, that they are kind of slowed down a little bit. And, that changeover, like I said, cutting over to the 100% cyber cell production definitely could be one of those things that is slowing that down. The Roadster should probably use 4680s more than likely, but I think that people are way over-indexing on thinking that the 4680 is a critical component that has to be solved before the next generation vehicle can move forward. The performance of LFP batteries on both, weight and range and cost is just incredible at this point in time. And Tesla can achieve the vast majority of their goals that they laid out in Master Plan Part 3, just based on the strength of the LFP battery and that technology. And then, like Brian mentioned earlier, the fact that all these other players are kind of pulling back their plans for EVs has opened up capacity. I think that's a big factor in why we just saw CATL and BYD
Panasonic
say, hey, we're going to cut our prices by 50%, is because, not only is they have an ability to cut that cost, but also that Tesla looks like the only player besides BYD that's aggressively moving towards being able to utilize all the capacity that's being developed for the LFP battery, especially when you look at the news about how CATL is restructuring now to be able for them as a Chinese company to be able to take advantage of the United States IRA tax credits on domestically produced or, even if they're just produced in, not Western nations, but nations that are, not covered by the foreign entities of concern clause in all of that. So all of that says to me that we're definitely in a hugely positive place with respect to batteries. Where 4680s are in that, I see positive signs, but I'm not just like wildly optimistic about it yet.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna catch. Go ahead.
Oh,
Brian.
I would agree with you that I don't see 4680 as being critical to the compact in any way. I think this is the right car for LFP, and LFP has gotten very good. If you look at the new Highland Model 3, the rear-wheel drive model has something like a 58 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and it does a great job. And Herbert and I discussed a story this morning on his show. BYD is actually has announced that they're not looking to enter the U.S. market, and so that if true, in the short term, may not be true in the long term. But I'm not worried that that's an imminent concern. But it will be interesting to watch and see.
BYD also announced their own new supercar. I'll show you that now in the video, but let me catch up, folks, on what the news was, and then I've got a question to you guys about the Roadster Halo discussion. You guys seem to think it's a big deal. Let me test you on that. So here's what happened. Elon Musk last night dropped a bunch of posts on X and nuggets. Here's what he said. Tesla radically increased the design goals of the Roadster. He said there will never be another car like it, if you could even call it a car. 0 to 60 miles per hour is less than 1 second. And he goes, that's not even the most interesting part. It may fly a little. When somebody asked, John Silicon Valley asked him, could it fly? And he just give the eyes emoji. Tesla and SpaceX will collaborate. So why do you need SpaceX? What did SpaceX do? Is it something to do with the magnesium alloy? It's not a Cybertruck, but a different kind of design? Maybe it's most likely the thrusters, right? That's most likely what it is. Production design is complete, and it's going to be unveiled at the end of this year. We're expecting the design this year, aiming to ship it next year. Will be a rocket on wheels. So he just refers to this rocket always. It has a shot at being the most mind-blowing demo of all time. So before we get to the supercar that BYD shared, thank you to Tesla Economics, by the way. I got a lot of my tweets from him, and he produced all of these videos as well. So, okay, is this a Halo car? And what does it mean to be a Halo car? The Cybertruck was a Halo car, right, guys? So the Cybertruck launched. Everybody's looking at it. They're thinking about Tesla. I think we did a show, Hans. You showed me that the sales of Tesla Model Y and 3s have skyrocketed, or I don't know if it's skyrocketed, but increased because of the Cybertruck. Why do the Roadster? How big of a halo is Roadster? Like, what's going to happen to the sales of our other cars?
It'll help. It'll definitely help. There are people out there who insist on owning a Rolex, and there are other people who insist on owning 5. This is Tesla's version of that. Why have a Halo product when you can have 4 or 5 Halo products? They've still got the Falcon Wing doors on the Model X. That's a showstopper. It's still, the Plaid is a very fast, very sexy car in my opinion. I would have liked the refresh to be a little bit more refreshing, but it's still, a head turner, not as much as some of the newer products, but it doesn't have to be. The ludicrous Model 3 is a Halo. People will see those at the drag strips, and already we're seeing EVs being banned from drag strips because it's just no fun when we can't win anymore. And so I think it's absolutely a Halo, and I think that's absolutely a good thing.
Yeah, a Halo is all about one thing and pretty much one thing only, and that is earned media. So instead of Tesla paying to run ads on some social media website or, on network television or whatever, by just simply creating this product that's ridiculous, all the media is going to cover it. It's going to be on network television. It's going to be on social media. Everyone's going to be talking about it. Not just everyone, but, we've already seen a ton of celebrities driving around in Cybertrucks. Why are they doing that? Well, because it's cool, and cool equals earned media. Everyone wants to be attached to cool. Everyone wants to look up to cool. Everyone wants to talk about cool. And that is what a Halo product is. That is what the Roadster is going to be. And this is how an engineer thinks about marketing. Like, I just want to make the best dang product possible. It's so good that people can't help but love it and buy it and talk about it and tell all their friends about it.
All right, let me show you BYD supercar. Is BYD cool now? Let's take a look.
Vehicles by Sales unveiled its new U9 model. The company says the car will be able to reach a top speed of 192 miles per hour and can reach speeds of over 60 miles per hour in just 2.36 seconds. For comparison, Ferrari's SF90 Stradale reaches the same speed in 2.5 seconds. And much like its supercar counterpart, the U9 will carry a hefty price tag. Prices start at 1.68 million Chinese yuan, which is just over $233,000. This is a change for BYD as the company hopes to capture more of the high-end market.
What do you guys think? BYD supercar.
Well, I'm, you know my thoughts on it. It's beautiful. I think it's something that people will want and will buy. I don't know how many of them. The problems with it are 2.3 seconds, 0 to 60 is that may be gasoline supercar. That's not EV supercar. I can name a number off the top of my head. The Rimac, the Lucid, the Tesla, all quicker 0 to 60. The other problem with this car is it's heavy. It's like 6,500 pounds? 5,500 pounds. It's heavier than a Lucid Sapphire. It's like 500 pounds heavier than a Plaid, the heaviest Plaid. It's a heavy car, and it's,
I'll bet you all of that is battery, because I bet you that they're just using their LFP batteries. And since their LFP technology, while it's a great battery, it's not the most energy dense battery. And so if you want something that has that amount of power and you use LFP, then you sacrifice in weight. And, those are the types of boundaries that Tesla's really going to push with the Roadster. Like, we could see a very exotic battery in the Roadster. I'm not predicting that we will see that. I'm just saying it's definitely within the realm of possibilities. And, that's a difference between the two. Like, man, when Tesla tries something, they go all out and they shoot for the fences. And while I love, like you said, it's a beautiful car. I love to see BYD getting adventurous and trying something in this realm. It's a good first shot at it. It's not something that is anywhere, comparable to a Tesla Roadster and what they're trying to do. And so it's just not quite as ambitious. And since it's not as ambitious, it's also not quite as exciting.
I would agree with you on all points there. I think that this is what the Roadster would have been if they made it a few years back. If they made it when they showed it, what they were doing was the original Roadster that we were shown in 2017 took the existing technology and said, this is what we're pretty sure we can make. And a lot of people said, why don't you just make it? Well, the same thing is true with the Cybertruck. Tesla could have just made a boring truck and gotten it out earlier, years probably. But that's not what it was about. People have even said, they should have just taken Rivian's approach. Do just that. It's a ground up, but it's still a traditional truck. And the problem they would have is the problem Rivian's currently having, which is they can't sell them for a profit. They're too expensive to manufacture with all those legacy systems bogging them down. So I'm going to agree with you on that, Hans. I think the BYD is the best mass-produced electric supercar you can make without pushing the boundaries, without doing something new and exciting. I think that's a great
What do you guys think the look is going to be? What I've been showing is the old version of the Roadster, right? This is going to be redesigned, correct? And
I think so.
I've seen this one design where it's using the gull wing, what do they call it?
The Falcon.
The Falcon wing doors, right? Is it going to be cyber? Is it going to be cyber? I think it's going to be cyber, guys. What do you guys think?
The arrow on cyber is not like this. Has to push the boundaries, and like the shape of supercars is the shape of supercars because arrow is a thing.
Yeah, you're right. I was wrong about that. I think it was actually even Franz who was interviewed, and he said the reason why Cybertruck looks the way it is because of the use case, right? Of the need for this to be strong and durable. You're not going to do that because it's not the use case, even though it looks nice maybe or something, Right. No, it's not going to be cyber, but just can't wait to see what this thing looks like. It's going to be gorgeous. That's everything Tesla does is gorgeous. Uh,
And yeah, there's a lot of comments in here talking about how many G's. Anthony wants to know how many G's can you take around the track, and
Yeah.
if there are thrusters on the side, am I going to need a flight suit to drive this safely to keep the blood in the right part of my body at the right times? Maybe, I don't know,
Maybe.
but it is pushing the limits. You've got cars like the Sperling McMurtry, the McMurtry Sterling, Sperling.
I think Spearling.
Spearling, that's right. And it uses a skirt and it pulls itself down to the ground to get additional traction. There's also a concept, a little project car that is a little one-seat race car. Tom Scott got to drive it in one of his final videos, where he did 0 to 60 in under a second. But it's so tiny, and it's purpose built for just this one party trick. And there's no reason that it couldn't have, just using the thrusters that could make it hover, point the other direction. You only need 1 G of downforce. If you've got 1 G the other direction, that's hovering. So if it can do a G of downforce in the corners for you to give you more traction, that's where your hoverability comes in. And I don't think the current design has any place to put those vents. I think we would need to see a redesign to have a place to put them. So I don't know if it's going to look just like the one we saw, but I suspect it will be different. And like you said, not something too radical, because it's hard to push the boundaries when you're busy pushing all that air.
okay. I got another video to show you guys. I love it. This is fun. Watch this.
Can you swim? It's time we said goodbye to an uninvited guest. Alone at last.
Oh, a very convenient ramp.
Who owns that car that was shown on the James Bond movie? Do you guys know?
Could be anybody. Could be anybody.
Could be anybody. Actually, it's
I feel
Elon
like-
Musk. Elon Musk
feel
owns that car. He bought it. He specifically went and bought it. He wants a submarine car. He wants a missile. Of course, no missile,
Yes.
but I mean,
Well, that's the SpaceX collaboration right there.
Well, and the other thing that you need, if you're going to do a submarine, is a good pressure vessel. And I wonder, what companies might be good at pressure vessels.
Yes, I
because the
think it's all very
Cybertruck,
silly.
everybody thought the Cybertruck was going to be a boat. He talked about Cybertruck being a boat.
I didn't think it was going to be a boat. I know he said it was, but I never believed that.
Lars is going to have to tell him no again. No more boats, Elon.
Yeah, no more boats. Do you think it'll have a crab walk?
I'm going to say, even if it has rear steer, no, because the Cybertruck doesn't crab walk. Why? There's got to be a reason. I assume there's already a reason why supercars do four-wheel steering. I guess they don't need it in racing. Can anybody in the comments correct me on that? Why doesn't any racing circuit, apart from monster trucks, have rear steer?
I
Interesting.
mean, the steering inputs that you would have at those types of speeds is very
Right.
it's not the amount of turn that you're getting on your wheels, whether they're front, rear, or four wheel, that is your limiting factor. It is just a function of downforce that you don't have the ability to change the momentum of the vehicle by that much at those speeds. But if you're significantly increasing your downforce, maybe there's an opportunity to get a little bit more creative or aggressive with what you're doing from a steering standpoint. But man, yeah, it takes me back to what you said earlier. Like, if you're talking about significantly increasing the amount of lateral G's that you're accelerating, you are going to have to do some very interesting things from a, blood flow management perspective for whoever is unfortunate enough to be driving around inside of that.
Interesting. So we did see a comment from Keith saying that Formula One had used rear steering, but like all the good things in Formula One, they ban it. Unfortunate for a lot of race circuits that they're not allowed to go as aggressive in pushing the limits as some engineers might like.
So will this be street legal, right? So 0 to 60 in less than 1 second. If it has thrusters, can that be something you can drive around in the street?
So I was thinking about that today. So the speed is not the issue. There are currently no laws that restrict how quick a vehicle can get to the speed limit, only how far above the speed limit it can go before you wind up in the slammer. But in terms of the thrusters, why not? Why couldn't Tesla just make it GPS enabled, so that if it shows that you are on a public road, you can't turn it on? I think that would be...
I think that's what this guy was saying. Roger is saying
There you go.
GOS. He meant GPS restricted, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the... Yeah. Oh, yes, and Jeff's pointing out, would only be enabled during track mode. That would also be helpful. Because, if a pedestrian is walking behind you, it could also have it so that where the cameras say, if anything is showing up within your parking assist, we won't turn it on. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's
and
just quickly review again where we're at. So you've got Elon Musk dropping this last night. We radically increased the design goals for the new Tesla Roadster. There will never be another car like this, if you could even call it a car. He's hinting that this is more than just a car. Tesla SpaceX collaboration, production designs complete, and unveil will happen the end of this year, aiming to ship next year. I think it has a shot at being the most mind-blowing product demo of all time. Can it fly a little? He's kind of hints that maybe it will. 0 to 60 in less than 1 second, and that is the least interesting part. There might be a lot of other things that are more interesting than that.
And I think they could do a lot of testing on it without the public finding out. The Cybertruck, we know, did testing on closed tracks in the desert, and did so in early morning hours when nobody was likely to be anywhere within miles of the place. So when it's time to test it, I don't think we will be seeing it on the road out like we did with other cars. I think it'll be kept very under wraps like the Cybertruck. The fun thing with the Cybertruck was there were journalists who were allowed in to see it a day or a week early before the public, and they were told explicitly, this is an embargoed story. You do not release the story until our event ends, period. And I think all of them looked at the truck and said, well, this is clearly a test, because that's not it. There's no way that's it. And no, that was it. But wouldn't that have been humiliating to run a story about it early and then be found? But I would have doubted it too. They're messing with me. I've done something wrong.
Okay. I think that the bigger news is what we were talking about earlier today, that it's not just the Roadster, that it's going to be a Halo product, it's going to be amazing and all things we talked about. It's that if he's already talking about the design lock of the Roadster, that it's going to be produced next year, they must have confidence about the Model 3 compact car. It might be further ahead than we realize. Maybe that's already design lock, and they already announced that that's going to be revealed this year with production next year. So this might mean for him to be talking about Roadster now. Or do you think, it could just be coincidence that they both happen at the same time, right?
It could be coincidence for sure, but I think Elon doesn't like to be one-upped, and I don't think that Tesla would necessarily see the U9 from BYD as
Which
a
was
direct-
announced yesterday, right? So there could be
yeah.
like this thing about they announced their supercar. I better go talk about my supercar.
I better go get on that. So I don't know if that's the big deal. And he
I
did
don't
say
think
that
so.
the design is not yet locked on the Roadster, but it's getting all the design attention right now, which means the design almost certainly is locked on the compact, which is the much more exciting part. Why Roadster before Cybertruck? It's not. The Roadster will still be out, or before compact. The compact will still be out. It is. We may see units as early as the end of this year, but it is expected to be out certainly next year, where the Roadster would be a full year behind it. So,
Wow, Brian. Oh, that's a little aggressive. Yeah.
No, those were his announcements on the quarterly earnings call. He said he hopes that by the end of this year we could see a compact out of Texas, but definitely next year. Isn't that what he said?
Didn't hear that.
Did you hear that, Hans?
I
Am
was
I losing it? Somebody in the
somewhere, and
comments.
I was
You're
thinking
losing it.
it was Q1 of next or
Yeah.
sometime next year that they would
No.
have production, and then I think
Somebody
expecting
check
volume
me
in
in the comments.
2026.
Yes.
But yeah,
At any
even regardless of where, I mean, I think that they could start producing the first compact cars on manufacturing equipment definitely by the end of this year, beginning of next year. But like the distance from there to actually being able to get to volume is kind of big. And so Tesla's got a real tough challenge on its hand of figuring out how to manage that, because obviously when you release a product that's going to be at the prices that the compact car is going to be, you're really looking at disrupting a lot of the existing demand for your vehicles in some way or another. I mean, there's obviously not 100% overlap, but it's going to have an impact. And so they've got to figure out how to navigate all of that. I think that for people who think, just going back to what we said earlier, how come Tesla didn't make sure that they just produced the Model Y, or not the Model, the next generation vehicle 3 years ago? Tesla has, at every stage of their growth, always been hyper focused on making sure that the long-term profitability of whatever vehicle is that they're designing is in place before they ever start producing it. And this was a huge focus of the Model 3 vehicle program. And even with everything that they tried to do to create that vehicle and make sure that it ramped smoothly and profitably, we saw that even with all of that effort, that was still very difficult to achieve. And unfortunately, it looks like Tesla's the only American EV manufacturer that does this, because if Lucid had this type of thought process in mind when they designed their vehicles, you would think that after several years, they would actually be able to reach profitability on that vehicle, but they can't. Same with Rivian. Same with all of these EVs that are being released by GM and Ford and all these companies. They can't figure out how to make these things profitably. And so Tesla doesn't just want to make a compact car that it can sell. It wants to be able to make a compact car that it can make millions and millions of and sell them profitably. And that's the hard part. And so they are taking their time, making sure that not only is all the design work done correctly, but then also I'll channel my inner Jeff Lutz. They've got to set up those supply chains. And so we touched on it earlier, like you have to not only get the technology for 48 volt and the Ethernet loops and all these things correct so that you can have the construction of the vehicle be the right construction. You also have to begin building up the supply base that is going to be able to service 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million vehicles a year just for that compact form factor. And then there's going to be other form factors that are thrown in on top of that over time, like we've talked about as well. And so you've really got to solve a ton of logistical challenges kind of from end to end, not only in the design, but in the sourcing of the materials. once again, batteries would not, like if we were trying to sell those cars, batteries would not have been there to sell that many vehicles. So like all of this stuff had to be figured out. That's why they couldn't have really produced the compact next generation vehicle any sooner. Like they will release it at literally the earliest point in Tesla's history possible to release it, and do so in a profitable, sustainable, beneficial way to Tesla shareholders that doesn't sink the company.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who are smarter than Elon, so maybe they're right. Yeah.
So many. We're all, oh, I know so much more. Hey, it was a long time ago I learned to stop second guessing the executives at Tesla.
And it's not just Elon, right? Like he actually knows the factory. He made the comment before that he probably is on Earth the person who knows the most about factory production of automobiles. He knows every single part so well. Okay, well that's fun. This is why we're invested in this company. Such an exciting company, just always progressing forward with innovation and just new cars being delivered. Sometimes late, like Roadster and Cybertruck were certainly late, but these are going to make a mark in industry, in the company. We're headed for it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hans and Brian. We do this live stream every week. Thank you, everybody. Follow Hans on Hansi Nelson and Brian at Future Oza. See you soon. Bye, everybody.